Coin.
Hello, YouTube. It's me, Robert. What's going on? Today, I want to go over the difference between a variety and an error. I was asked the question by Audrey Muzingo. It says, why is there such a lack of consensus about what counts as a variety versus an error? Every time I turn around, someone's correcting me online discussing about calling something an error when they say it's actually a variety and vice versa. It's irritating. Why not just call them something like abnormalities? Well, it's the terminology. This is what I use, and I agree. It is a discussion, Audrey, that we in the coin community don't seem to have agreed 100%, but there is a big majority of them that do agree with the terminology that I'm about to give to you. If you go from NGC, they're a grading company. They take in a variety may be defined as a die or die pairing that offers some distinctive feature, not a normal part of the design. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. John Wexler, he says in his website, the primary purpose of this website is to serve as a source of information for collecting of coins with die varieties. What are die varieties? We define die varieties to be a difference in the design that appears on the coin for a particular year and denomination. In the Wexler die variety files, we recognize two categories for die varieties: internal or intentional die varieties and unintentional die varieties. The intentional die varieties are designs different on the coins for a particular year and denomination that were deliberately made by the United States Mint. These would include varieties like the 1960 Lincoln Cent, large dates, and the small dates, not the large over small. That's just the large date over the or the small date, either one of them, because they made two different designs in 1960. Another one would be the 1970 San Francisco. There is a large date for the 1970 San Francisco Lincoln Cent and a small date. Both of those are designs, and they were intentional. That the mint had made an adjustment to the dies in order to take and to try and get them to strike up better. Maybe they were having problems with die chips, the die just failing, wearing out too quick. There's a multitude of reasons why they may have changed the design itself. In 1982, they were transitioning from an all copper coin to a copper zinc planchet, where it was a zinc primarily planchet that was coated in copper. They made 7 designs that year. There's the 82 small date, the 82 large date. But now when I say 7, that includes the copper ones and the zinc, well, the copper coated zinc ones. And it also, well, that would be mainly it. There was an I guess it would be construed as a variety, a transitional error. In fact, that's what it would be called, a transitional error, because it was unintentional. That's where we go into what Wexler describes as the unintentional die variety. Now, that's going to include double dies, repunch mint marks, over mint marks. Those are things that are unintentional. Even a transitional error is different than that. But he says the unintentional die varieties are design variations on coins for a particular denomination and year that were produced in error. Now, they were produced in error. That don't make them an error coin. These varieties include such errors as double dies, repunch mint marks, over mint marks, dual mint marks, inverted mint marks, repunch dates, replaced dates, and over dates. There you go. That's a few of the terminology that we are going to use here. I agree with Wexler. Conoco agrees with me. I happen to notice that Wikipedia, I asked about a die variety, and they said in an article, I don't have that article in front of me. I tried to do a little research or search the internet for it, and I couldn't come across it again. And I just seen it yesterday. But they had said error coins like double dies. Those are not error coins. Yes, they were made in error. just like Wexler says, those were made in error to where one hub, being, say, a good example would be the 1960 Denver Lincoln Cent, small date over large date. I'll show you one here in just a second. But what happened was the large date was a later hubbing process because they were having problems with the small date with die chips and things of that nature. So what they did was they made a large date. The O is larger, the 6 has got a different design. There's a lot of variations in that coin. The large and the small date are both variations or varieties. However, what had happened was to get the large over small date, the die variety that a lot of people search for, the mint apparently was using a large date. They were striking up thousands and thousands of coins. How many? I'm not sure. Probably about 50, 100,000. And the die probably started to wear. And so they took it back to get it. I don't know. They may have re-annealed it to touch it up. And they was going to squeeze it again. Well, what had happened there was the mint employee at that time grabbed one of the older small 1960 dates and squeezed it over top of the large. This is where we get the small over large date variety. That's just one example. It happened also in the 1970 San Francisco Lincoln Cent small and large date variety as well. Similar process, I am sure. However, another thing would be the repunch mint marks. Now, the repunch mint marks, the employee would take basically a steel rod or a punch, as it's well known, and it has a small feature. It'd be a D for Denver, S for San Francisco. Some of them, if you want to get very calculative, they use the CC for Carson City, the O for New Orleans, and so on and so forth. I believe there's 9 of them. Somebody, if I make a mistake on the amount of mint marks there is out there, leave me a comment below. I'm certain somebody will take and correct me. Um, However, a lot of times the employee would strike the punch to put the mint mark in the die because prior to 1994, they were punching them directly into the dies. And maybe he missed the punch, didn't get it square as far as he didn't strike it hard enough, or he may have not even got it squared. He might have been holding it at a 90-degree angle or 90 degrees, punched it, noticed it was a flat D, flipped it around, punched it a second time, and now you got 2 images. This is something I'll show you here in just a second as well. Those are repunchment marks. I've went into overmint marks in an earlier video, so go back and look at CoinOp and you'll see some of that images. However, I'm going to take and show you a few images and we'll discuss it as I'm showing them to you and give you a little bit better of an idea. Let's look at the coin I was discussing. The first coin that they made in 1960 for the Lincoln Cent was a small date, seen right here. And then the next one was the 60 large date, and that's seen right here. Now afterwards, the mint mark would have been added, as you see here on this here Lincoln Cent. And then when a small date was inadvertently squeezed over top of the large date on one of the working hubs, it produced a small over large date as seen here. Now for this particular variety, it also had an RPM. Here's a nice picture that you can see the RPM that is far separate to the north. So in reality, you end up with both a repunch mint mark and a double die on this particular variety. Next, I wanted to show you just a double die. This is a 1945 Philadelphia Jefferson nickel with a nice strong double die reverse. This is a class 2 double die with a very strong spread on the right side of the building on the TICELLO of Monticello 5 cents and the states of with extra thickness on E pluribus unum. Even though the mint employee made an error in lining the hub up with the working die, this is still classified as a die variety. And I would say that this is what classifies all double dies as a variety as well as repunch mint marks. Okay, now that happened to show you a few of the varieties. I mean, there is many more up into the thousands, but I hope that gives you an idea of what a variety is. Now I want to just show you a couple of pictures of what are considered error coins. Now, I've got more than this, but to be honest, for the lack of me being organized, I only got a couple of coins that I can show you, but I think you'll get the idea. Here, let's take a look and I'll explain them as we go. The first thing we're going to look at is a die cud. Now, this happened in the actual die itself to where part of the die chipped off. And on this particular coin, on the obverse, it landed there. And what happened was it took and it put a real big indent, and it looks like Lincoln has a cap. The next one I'm going to show you here is considered a die clip. Now, this here is a straight line clip. However, it's an error. It was not intended to happen that way. These next few pictures are from a group that I got from Joe Durbin. And what it is you can see there's a couple of blank planches. This is what everything starts at, another video. Then you got just some reading that has been clipped, it's reading scrap. But here is a die clip and an off center, both of which were not intended to happen during the minting process. Okay, now there you have it. Now, let's do a little recap. Remember, the unintentional die varieties are design variations on coins for a particular denomination and year that were produced in error, even though they're still varieties, and they include double dies, repunchment marks, OMMs, misplaced dates, repunched dates, over dates, things of that nature. Whereas a mint error coins can be the result of a deterioration of the equipment, accidents, or malfunctions during the minting process, or intentional uh, mistakes made by the mint employees. However, that gives you the difference of the two. I wish I had more of the errors to show you, but I do specialize in variety, so that's why I don't. Don't forget, now this came from a suggestion by Audrey Muzingo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. If not, please forgive me. As you can see, Audrey made a suggestions in one of our other videos, which brings me to, if you don't mind, I enjoy taking and posting videos and information on coins, particularly varieties. So if you have a suggestion on a video in the comment section below, please leave me a suggestion. I'll look at it, and if I can do it, I'll be happy to. Please hit the like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Don't forget Fridays and Wednesdays, or Wednesdays and Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have a coin auction. As well as every other Friday, we'll have an auction at 8 p.m. So, we hope you share this with your friends, and I hope you learned something, and I hope this helps you understand. Now, understand one thing, this is my terminology. I go by some of the other people out there that I feel know it quite a bit. I've been doing this for 45 plus years, so I trust them. They're A&A specialists, and they know what they're talking about. So, I hope you enjoyed it. So, do me a favor and hit that like. Hope you subscribe, and if you hit the bell, you'll be notified when we go live for our auction. So take care, have a wonderful week, and as always, folks, happy hunting.